Peter Terrin, welcome to Spectrum 2014 in Miami.
Thank you very much.
So Peter, the show is now 3 days old, and your work has been on exhibit. How many pieces have you brought to the show?
I brought 8 paintings.
8 paintings, and within the last couple days, you've sold 2 of those pieces in the $12,000 to $20,000 range. But the largest piece, the cameo piece, if you will, for the show is the piece that we're next to here. And I guess what collectors would want to know, in fact, what I want to know, is a little bit of the background of you as an artist. In other words, when did this whole artistic thing happen with you? When did you decide as a young man that your career was going to move towards being an artist? And I'm also interested in understanding how the style of your work began to take shape.
Well, my parents never believed in art school. You know, my father was a classical teacher and smart thinking. You know, artists always end up being starving artists. That was his way of thinking. So they never actually let me study art school. So I had to look for inspiration, which came from big names in the art world. So as a kid, I started copying them from a very early age. So if you look back at my style now, this is you can see a Pollock, you can see a Chuck Close, you know. These are big names for me, my heroes that I've been inspired by. So I knew from a very early age, from like 13, 14 years old, that I wanted to be an artist. And my father was, in the summer holidays, he was a guide. So he used to take people to Paris and to Rome. So months before, he used to get information about the city. So one of these trips, my father took me to Paris, and we went to Montmartre, where it's full of artists on the square. And that was actually the first time I can remember that I said, I want to do this, you know. That image, these artists painting there in the street, that was what I wanted to do. So that idea never left my head. And then, you know, my parents didn't let me study art school, so I had to find something where art was involved, so I became a textile designer. Textile design had many hours of drawing. I'd never wanted to be a textile designer. It was just for me a way to get into drawing. Yeah? So most of it I'm self-taught, and again, my heroes were, like I said, Chuck Close, big time hero, Chuck Close, Jackson Pollock. I'm a very big fan today of a Canadian artist called Andrew Salgado. It's a guy that makes portraits as well. So then some local Belgium artists as well that I was inspired by. And as a kid, I copied all of them, and what I learned from all of them, I took into my own art, you know.
It's very obvious when we look at your work. It's very obvious that color is important to you. But interestingly enough, I would say that almost the dominant feature of your work is light. Your use of light in your work is so amazing. Maybe you can comment on how you perceive light as a contributing factor to the work that you do.
You know what, it's I don't have a really big explanation for it. I live now in Mexico. It's just light there is, especially now in this time of the year, is amazing. So I do focus on that. When I take my camera out and when I go and take portraits of people, pictures of people, I do make sure they're in the right light. So I go out early in the morning, or I go out around 5, 6 o'clock in the evening when the light comes from a different angle. So, and I try to use this again in my paintings. But again, since I not come from a typical art background, I had to do it all myself. I don't really have a big explanation of how I get to all my lights. It's just I've been picked it up during the years.
Yeah, well, obviously, somehow or another, from your brain to the brush, light translates itself in a very unique way. And I just want to congratulate you on your success here at the show and your wonderful work. We're glad to have you here.